Right. I think today I want to talk to you about a concept that is essentially a art form. And I want to talk a little bit about the art form, but mostly I want to talk about the philosophy and the way that the art form can, they say art mimics life or life mimics art, right? And this philosophy, this art form is called Kintsugi, Kintsugi. And it's a Japanese art of putting things back together with gold. So if you were to Google this, you'd see a lot of bowls or pottery, probably the easiest one to do, I imagine, that was essentially shattered and then put back together with gold. And it can be very beautiful. These gold streaks running through this colored pottery, and where the gold is actually, the cracks become stronger than they were before. And it takes a certain level of skill to be able to do this, to work with gold and to work with the pottery. And there's people that dedicate their whole lives to it, just the way that people dedicate their lives to building pottery or working through art. So that art form, I believe, is a great way to start a conversation about resilience, and can be taken and used when we're feeling like we have fallen apart. And through this life that we all lead, we've all come to this realization sometimes that we have fallen apart, that something in our life was broken and maybe needed to be mended. And we all have gold inside us in order to be able to do that. So I guess I'll just turn it over to you for a second. What do you think about this art form? What do you think about the idea of fixing something with gold? And maybe even moreover, what do you think about the idea of being intentionally resilient?
Yeah, I love to see like the pottery and the bowls and all the things that are repaired and with this art, because I think it obviously speaks to a much larger idea, kind of like you said, on resilience. And uh, in fact, I think the if you were to compare the before and after of some of these bowls, you notice that some of the bowls prior to their breaking appear very dull, albeit perfect and the way it was intended by the artist initially, a little dull, and not actually exciting. And when it's broken and then put together with these beautiful streaks of gold, and then it's exciting, that it's different, right? And I think that then speaks to the larger narrative that we come to broach upon, is that often when we try to be perfect, there's nothing great about that. There's nothing authentic about that, because no being is perfect. And we often have that facade, like, everything is fine, I'm whatever. And in fact, if we are authentic and resilient, then we can start to begin to understand that, maybe that's actually the beauty of being human, the fact that we do have flaws and that we've worked with them, right? And for a lot of us, those flaws are almost entirely internal. No one has the same vision of our flaws like we do, which can be quite hard. But the fact that we navigate through life with them and we build a life with them is fascinating and beautiful.
Yeah, I agree. I think it speaks to like acceptance.
Mhm.
You know, I think that the gold can be a metaphor for obviously like putting yourself back together, but in order to put the gold on, you got to accept that you have broken down. That you got smashed into pieces, and you had to start again. And it obviously speaks to resilience, which is something that we both pride ourselves on. But you're not going to be resilient if you don't have any obstacles to overcome, right? If everything was perfect, there'd be no need to be resilient. And if everything was perfect, there would be no need to use the gold. And I think that the art form really does teach us that the process and the journey of being broken and healing isn't a step back. It's just part of the process in becoming who we are, with gold streaks all the way through. And I think so many of us, especially when we get caught up in it, we look at it as this step back. Like I'll give you an example. I have a friend of mine. She was a nurse. She is a nurse. She's a nurse for a long time. She became a nurse manager for a long time. I mean, if she was sitting here, she would tell you she probably hated being a nurse manager, but it's who she was. And then they did some sorting out, they did some restructuring, and then she lost her job. And in that process was so hard for her. You could tell she was the bowl that was splayed all over the table in all these different pieces, didn't know which way was up, had to support a family, felt as though all of these things were, that was it. She was going to be this broken bowl. Well, throughout the process of healing and learning and applying and doing all the things that she knew how to do, she got another job at a bigger hospital, at a better hospital, on a floor that challenges her every day, making more money. And will now tell you that story 3 years removed as one of the really great things that happened to her over the last 4 or 5 years. And that she wouldn't say, oh man, that was the worst thing. I shouldn't have, I'm behind now because that happened to me. She would say, no, I'm gold streaks all the way through. I was broken, and through this process of healing and learning and growing, I am now this. And I think even she would recognize that there might be an opportunity where that it gets broken down again. But she has the gold streaks now, and those aren't going to break. Those areas won't break. She'll learn and she'll grow and she'll do it again. And how often do we look at a situation as a setback? This is the worst thing that's ever happened to me. If that didn't happen, I'd be so much further along. But ultimately, that's just not how it is. That's just part of the journey of moving forward. And that journey does require being broken or falling off the track or hurting yourself or all of these things. And as we practice the art of Kintsugi, we can say to ourselves, more gold. Right? Isn't it Jocko Willacek that says good? Right? That it rained on your run today, good. You didn't get the job promotion, good. This happened, it was poor for me, good. Right? Good. That's the mental art of saying, essentially Kintsugi, like, no, good. I'll add more gold. I'll put the next piece in. And every time I add more gold, I'm more resilient there. I'm better there. I'm better as I'm a better person here. I've learned because of that. I've improved my life this way. And now we're sitting here talking about it in an environment where we're not emotionally charged, really frustrated and down and thinking this is the worst thing and I'm so sad and I wish I could be better and I'm steps behind now. But rationally, our rational brain says, yeah, that's all real and true.
Yeah. They say Amor Fati, which means to love your fate. And, I really do resonate a bit with that. And, we've had discussions in the past where, I find regret to be a very interesting feeling, emotion, because, when you really think about it, things only happen one way, to to be regretful is denying the universe in some way. Like I wish that were different. You know, that would have been great if I had done X, Y, and Z. But in reality, the universe only moves in one direction, right? And so, you know, I think this is kind of speaks to the idea is that you have to love what happens. You have to love what happens. You have to accept what happens. And, you know, while we can learn from the past, we really shouldn't regret the things that had happened because almost entirely unfunctional. You know, if you can learn and say, well, that was good. That was a good learning experience. And, you know, I can see now that this served me well, even if it's just served me well as for the learning experience, or if it served as texture, you know, good texture for your life, then I think it's a powerful thing. And you know, anytime I'm kind of feeling a little down myself about whatever has happened, you know, I try to remember that you know the universe only moves in one direction, and I couldn't even have hoped to change that.
Yeah. It's like one of those, like, you didn't get the job. Okay. Then you got this job. Well, if you had got the other job, you wouldn't know anything about this job.
Hmm.
But how long did you carry regret for not getting the first job?
Right.
And it's like the what ifs. What if that happened? Well, it didn't.
Didn't.
So that's wasted time, right? It's tough to waste time, and I'm good at it, but that's the wasted time. The what ifs? What if I didn't break? What if it didn't fall apart? Well, like you said, then where would the texture be?
Right.
And how would we know about it? We don't. We can't. One direction. Well, quantum physics is now changing that. I think I did read there's some crazy stuff that they're doing, but we'll get into that another day. But yeah, like I think the point of the discussion today was just to bring up kind of a tangible, artistic philosophy about accepting. Would you say Om Fata?
Amor Fati.
Amor Fati. I like that a lot, right? Accepting that these things are going to happen and that not only can they still be beautiful, they can be more beautiful. The outcomes, the process of putting it back together can be more solid and beautiful than you've ever even imagined. That bowl that started as a bowl is now a bowl that is lined with beautiful gold streaks through it.
Mm.
And that bowl never even dreamed it could be a centerpiece. It was just going to be a salad bowl.
Right.
And now it's the centerpiece on the table, right? For people to see.
And it required to be broken. You know, I have a good personal example. I know she won't mind me sharing this, but you know, when I met Alicia, she, you know, she had a pretty, what's the most kind way to say this? She did struggle with an eating disorder, and yeah, I mean, it was one of those things that we kind of worked on, and you know, I don't think anyone would choose that, right? Like I choose an eating disorder. I don't think that people do that. I don't think that people say, I choose to lose my job, or I would choose the whatever. She didn't choose that, so she struggled for many years, like working through that, and you know what had actually happened though was through her work on that, through her own experience with that, she eventually found meaning in her life, and now what she does is she helps hundreds of people work through eating disorders, and she has helped hundreds of others, and we've helped, you know, those folks. And you know, there is something very strong and appealing about someone who themselves has worked through the challenge and then becomes the mentor, so to speak. And so for all intents and purposes, for her life now, it was actually more meaningful, it's more productive, it's better that she had struggled with that than had it not happened at all. In fact, had it not happened at all, she would not be doing the things that she is doing right now or that we would be doing. And you know, we have those examples throughout our lives all the time, right? And we can either choose to say, well, I regret that. I regret the fact that I even slipped and slid into the eating habits in this way. And I regret the fact that I did that. Or I regret that you could be regretful or remorseful of all of that. Or you'd say it happened and accept it. And we can use that. We can use that for, to bring about more depth in the things that we do day to day.
Yeah, well said. Yeah, that was it. That's what I wanted to talk about today. I think, it's valuable for people to realize that that it's out there and it's something that we all deal with. And I hope that our examples are, and we've inspired you a little, maybe even just to go look at some bowls, right? Just to kind of check out the art form. And when you are just kind of scrolling through and looking at the pictures and seeing the way the gold comes through, like, recognize maybe an area of your life that's where Alicia's story resonates with you, or with my friend's story resonates with you, or something that you turned, where you turned a perceived failure into gold, because we all have them, and the Japanese seem to be great at recognizing them and honoring them. And maybe just for a minute, you take a minute to honor yourself as someone that now has gold streaks. So we'll catch you on the next time. Definitely reach out if you have any desire to hear or want to learn about something that we find interesting, and we'll see you later.